All right, welcome back to another episode of Zen and Fire. Today we are talking about no. It's a complete sentence. And how we're going to stop apologizing and justifying our decisions, especially as women. And I am your host, Shannon Ferris, the Fire. And I am also here with my amazing co host, Cynthia.
Hey.
Who is the Zen. We bring our different perspectives here on a lot of social issues that impact women. And our goal overall is to help remove these limiting beliefs and really empower women. So let's get into today's topic.
Looking like a baddie, I show up and make them stop. Wanna know my name so badly, cause I run this whole block. Flip my hair, move my head, show the world I'm royalty. Wait, yeah. Move it. They wanna know just how I do it.
All right, welcome back. Today we're talking again about no, it's a complete sentence. And
I mean, no, period, right? Like,
No.
That is the complete sentence.
Yeah. Actually, I actually have done this a couple times. I was on Instagram and I saw a meme that said, absolutely not. They're like, I need to hone in. It's not just no anymore. It's absolutely not. I'm not doing it. Right.
And that's a complete thought. It's a complete sentence.
Yeah.
You don't have to question what somebody means about that. I mean,
if
it's
you
a
want to add
full
a
response.
little zhuzh onto your no, like you want to be a little dramatic. Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
I don't
Absolutely
see
not.
you and mini Shannon doing that at all. Absolutely not.
So, but one of the things that I've noticed, and this kind of hit me 2 or 3 years ago, is the need to explain ourselves or justify ourselves when we say no. And there's actually no reason that we should be doing that. And when I say we, I mean women. And so, of course, I went down a rabbit hole and I wanted to know why we do this, what happens. And I found a bunch of studies, and this is almost an epidemic that hits women. And what I found is a lot of really interesting things, even as far as how we are wired at a certain level and at a social level, to be completely honest. And so, why I have the authority to talk about this is I am a former words are hard, former people pleaser. So I went from somebody who was yes. I was exhausted all the time. I wanted people to find value. I felt bad saying no because I wanted to be a good person, a kind person. I wanted people to have some kind of I don't know. I wanted them to see me in a different light. But then I've really grown in the last 5-7 years. And I'm okay with saying no. And now I'm telling women, like, no, you don't have to justify yourself.
100%. So you said some really important points there, and you really talked about who you were in the past, right? Like a people pleaser.
Mm-hmm.
And how did people pleasing, right, allow you to go out into this rabbit hole and to see just how I'm just really trying to find a freaking question here because I don't really know what kind of question.
How did I convert from a people pleaser to absolutely not?
Yes.
That actually is a great question. So again, I came up in a family where the value was placed on, carrying on the last name and all of that. It was not what it was. So I put myself through college, not just with 1 degree, but with 4 total, which was a big deal. But it was still, oh, you lucked into where you are. So I started using my psychology degree and looking and like these people are never going to be happy. Like they're miserable. They're not recognizing the work that I've done, which is what I craved, right? I wanted people to recognize the work. I wanted to find the recognition that I felt I needed, and they weren't doing it. So finally, I was like, well, excuse my language, but fuck you. You're not happy. I'm not happy. So I'm going to focus on making myself happy. And once I was able to do that, it really kind of like, what do they say? The matrix or the rose colored glasses came off. And I was like, it literally changed my life. Now, it didn't happen overnight, but it was a pivotal moment.
To relate to what you're saying, I realized something in a previous meditation earlier in the week. I think it might have been like a Monday or something like that. But I was sitting back and reflecting, because as we have come to know things about me, I have all these like daddy issues, right? Like daddy issues that I haven't always worked on. And so
Hashtag mommy issues. Hashtag. That's why. See, there you go.
hashtag
Hashtag mommy issues. Hashtag daddy issues. That's fine.
exactly. And so I realized that hurt people. And I was understanding how my father, who was hurt,
Mhm.
was inflicting his pain upon me. And a way for me to grow beyond my daddy issues is to really figure out how to have compassion for that man. Right. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I have been sitting here stumped on how I can have compassion for my father.
Mhm.
Well, during this meditation, I realized empathy. Have empathy for this man is a it's the gateway to having compassion for someone. And when people are hurt, like you said, your mom wasn't happy. So she made you feel exactly the way she felt,
Well,
not
it's what
happy.
she knew, right? And it was an upbringing
Exactly.
of that. But
I mean, it wasn't vicious or necessarily vindictive. And this is what I have to understand from a compassionate and empathetic part from my father. This might be getting on to something else, but just to kind of complete this thought out, it's like he had no other way of knowing how to show up. He just did. And he very unconsciously made people feel the way that he felt, which was also unhappy.
yeah, so those
So,
remember that rabbit hole I was telling you about? That's actually there are studies, even from the University of Texas. That's what the empathy is actually what I don't want to say it's the problem, but women are wired differently, like I said, at a genetic level and then also at a social level. So the empathy is actually one of the things that causes us to say yes when we shouldn't. And it's a detriment to us because we are wired typically to be on an emotional level that we want and we have empathy for other people. So I feel the problem is we're like, oh, I would want somebody to do this for me, and you have empathy, but they don't. We're
mm,
trying to be kind people instead of learning how to be good people. And part of that is saying no. No, I don't have the cycles for that. No. So learning how to have empathy for somebody, I empathize with you, but you need to hold yourself center first because what you're doing when you're not saying no is you are sacrificing yourself.
that's a great point. And another great point that you made is I can totally empathize with you. I've been there, I've done that. I've got the t shirt and the trophy. Totally can understand where you're coming from. And at the same time, I would be doing you so much injustice if I stepped in and rescued you in this moment, right? Like, so saying no, if you feel like it's such a bad thing, saying no can actually empower someone to step up and become the person that's necessary in order to overcome the challenge or the situation or the circumstance.
Mhm.
So I think that some really specific outcomes, if we were to talk about the purpose of this conversation, would be number one, to realize that as women, it is essential that we stop people pleasing. We
I
stop
would even take it a step further and understand, right? You can't understand where you're coming from. That's what we've asked people to do. Understand where you're coming from, understand the social, like how we're wired, understand the social conditionings, and they are changing, right? I think we're overcompensating in some areas and others we're not. But understanding how society has made it okay for men to say no, and it's very acceptable because that's what a man does. A man says no, and it like we don't question it. But if a woman says no, it's like people are clenching their pearls and they're clenching their asshole, and like it's a whole thing, and it's
and
just
all of a
it's
sudden
not
you get
okay.
labeled bitch.
You do. You get labeled a bitch, you get labeled cold, you get labeled a Karen. You are not allowed to really voice your opinion if it differs. But that's a whole nother tangent. That's due to the internet, right? I posted something. I was like, hey, first of all, I'm gonna go on a rabbit hole here, or tangent.
Oh,
I feel the
where's the
need to
popcorn?
justify. I know. I posted a comment on social media. I'm like, hey, this isn't cringy at all. Like, I love this. And that was it. Somehow that comment was like, these people lost their ever loving mind. So then I took a step. I don't go back and forth. I'm like, I don't know these people. If you're that, triggered by me saying something, I'm like, that's kind of one of the great things about America is we're allowed to have opinions and
America. Good
America.
old thing about America.
But like I'm allowed to have an opinion. Like me, like again, like you're offended, but I'm not offending you. That's something. Get some therapy. It's 2023. It's covered by your health
Those are
insurance. It's
personal
free.
problems.
Yeah, that's on you.
100%.
Don't come after me because I'll hurt your feelings. I will.
Ooh.
I have no problem. I'll hurt your feelings and I'll leave you. But I'm trying to be a better person. Not that, not that
Jesus knows my heart.
he knows my arm from the south side of the kingdom. Anyways, these people, and they didn't go from like facts. They started getting like super personal, right? So again, and then I started going back to the point of my story, and I'm like, thank God I'm more healed and have more sense of self from last week's episode because I do not feel the need to justify to myself to grown ass people who are using the word cringe. Like, if they don't like something, they're like, ew, cringe. And I'm like, are you grown? Like, is
So is
that how
that
you
their
communicate?
complete sentence?
They're like, cringe. I'm like, what happened to just scroll and move on? Scroll and
Right.
move on. Was it cringe? Like,
Absolutely not. Absolutely
clearly,
not. That is not a complete sentence.
I can tell what socioeconomics, what tax bracket you're in, and how you communicate just off the term cringe, right? Like my 9-year-old doesn't even use that. So, anyways, the whole point of this is like it's kind of like say no and let it go. Don't overthink it. So understanding how in society it's getting better, right? It's this fine line between the forced feminism and then the like what we're bred genetically made to do or built to do. I don't want to say made. That's a wrong statement. But then being okay with like no and let it go. It's a complete
I
sentence.
really like that. I like know and let it go. That's absolutely a tool
Mhm.
that can be used in applying this, right? Because, and another thing that I would say is to believe that Boundaries are meant to be honored and obeyed. And
So,
so many of us, especially as women, have no boundaries because, our boundaries, they get they get lost, they get forgotten because we societal, right?
mhm,
Whatever that word is that I'm trying to say, right? Hashtag shit that Shannon says, words are hard.
words are hard.
um Society would lead us to believe that we must be all things to all people. Even in the Bible, the P31, the Proverbs 31 girl, lady, woman,
Mhm.
she is all things to all people. Like, girlfriend gets up before the sun comes up. She's working hard. She's classy in the streets. She has a great man that she honors and serves.
Oh,
She
no, no,
puts
no, right
food
there.
on the table for her
Hold
family.
on.
And then
Not
she
the same.
goes out and toils and has to come back and continue to serve her family.
But there's a couple of things that you pointed out really quick that we don't have in today's society. So first of all, I agree with you. Women are meant to be empathetic, caretakers, those. But again, another topic that we have slated, the forced feminine, being a forced feminist. We have weak men who don't know how to be men. They're not emotionally stable. They're not financially stable. We have women who have stepped up. Listen, I love what they were trying to do in the 70s, burn bras, equal rights, all that, but they did not execute on this because now we have women who, why do I need you? Like, why do I need you? So when you have a strong
That is a
partner,
true point.
it is. So it's not the same. I agree with you. When you have a strong partner who's emotionally stable and can is not offended if you do make more or is, what did they say, equally yoked, all of those things, then it's a completely different thing. It is completely different. And typically, going back to what you said about boundaries, setting a boundary and then upholding a boundary, it's like phase one, I set it and forget it. What was that? They used to do that, the
Set
rotisserie
it
thing.
and forget
My
it.
mom
Yeah, the
had one.
rotisserie
She used
thing.
that thing for everything. But like, set it,
1992 called and they want their commercial back.
heck yes. But you can't just set it and forget it. You have to uphold it. So, and it's a skill. It's almost like a muscle memory that you have to do because you're so used to being like, oh, sure, I'll do that. I'll do that. So, one thing that really helped me, like converting from the people pleaser to no, absolutely not, right? Was I would sit there for a minute and I was okay. I didn't care if it made me look like in any sort of way, but I would sit there for a minute and I would say, okay, like, do I have the time for this? Do I actually want to do this? Are you picking your teeth?
I had a little something in there and I was like, I really don't want to smile really big. And then all of a sudden you get all of this, going on this side of my mouth. So I'm like, okay, while she is making a point, I will just remove said distraction. Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. For the podcast, from now on, we're adding that to your checklist.
Yes, we are
Have
not
you had a
exempt
bio
from
break? Do
our
you
own
have what you
advice.
need? Are your teeth clear? Like, is your stuff working? Like, I'm setting
Like,
a
I don't
boundary.
need you to get all of that done beforehand. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Okay.
Anyways, back to my tangent, right? I gotta figure out where I left off. But setting a boundary.
Boundaries.
Yeah, you can't just set it and forget it. What I used to do is I'm like, how is this kind of like benefiting me or the person I want to be, the person I'm trying to be? And if it's not, then I would say no. And then at first I would do a justification, but then I was like, I don't know this person. Like, I don't owe them anything, right? I can almost understand if, like, hey, your sister or family or a very close friend comes to you and they're like, hey, do you want to do this? And you're like, hey, no, I have other plans. So sorry, maybe another time. Actually, that's another thing. I really stopped saying sorry. unless I was sorry. I'm like, you'll have to excuse my lateness. You'll have to excuse my grumpiness. You'll have to show me some grace. Stop saying sorry. And this is
Mm.
for men or women, children, anything. Stop saying sorry if you did not do anything wrong.
And what a self-fulfilling prophecy that is so unconscious. So if you're constantly labeling yourself as sorry, oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm
Mhm.
sorry, I'm sorry, like you are degrading yourself and taking your perception of self down to a sorry ass level, and this is not what
Well,
we need to program ourselves as. And I,
it's taking on the burdens of other people. You did not do anything wrong. And the reason I say is because I notice like my children doing it. My 12-year-old son, and he's now getting, because I do. I'm like, you didn't do anything wrong. Do not say you're sorry. Kind of, it's the old in sales when you have the filler words. We do this, right? I just used one, but you're stopping and you're bringing it to attention because in our subconscious, we don't even know that we're doing it. So being able to call it out or have somebody call it out, they're like, oh my gosh, you're right. So I do tell people, I'm like, you have nothing to be sorry for. You did nothing wrong. But
there
part of
is no
that,
reason to apologize,
yeah, but part of that is, even what do I always say? Change the way you speak and it changes the way you think.
which
That
is why I
is,
just said, don't say you're sorry.
yeah, and it retrains your brain and your new habits and those types of things. So, again, saying no, but going back to the tool I was talking about, I would sit there, I'm like, does this benefit me? Does this help me in being the person I want to be? Does it benefit my outcomes that I want? Does it do anything? And then I would just, and the more you kind of talk yourself through that, sometimes I would write it out, but you just become in a habit of it. And then before you know it, you're automatically doing it.
I would agree with you. And another thing that I think goes a lot deeper than what people realize is understanding that you give off a vibe, and unintentionally, unknowingly, people just read you, right?
Mhm,
So, one thing that I would say is that I know that intentionally I don't give off the I will rescue you vibe.
mhm.
So, so many women just become a martyr. They just sacrifice themselves. They just,
They'll even sacrifice, listen to this. I did read an article where they were talking about being agreeable, right, to society's conditioning. It really imposes, not only women are like passing up employment opportunities. Let's think about this. Oh, I can't because I'm the primary caretaker for kids. Okay, well then you need to talk with your partner and figure out a solution. You shouldn't have to sacrifice or have immediate, I need to do this, the reaction. They have
I would
given
agree.
yeah, promotions at work. Oh, it's going to require me to travel. I can't do that. You need to have a conversation beforehand. It has, in the article, they were talking about how it's hindered women from building financial stability. So we talked about this before too. What happens, or no, this is a topic we have coming up. Like, what happens if your dynamic in your relationship changes? Your partner, something happens to them, regardless of what it is. Now you're SOL. And then the most important thing is that women, they are risking their physical safety in the world today, where the number one moneymaker is human trafficking, and we have a world of where we're trying to make um, sex acts and pedophiles okay in society. Like, no, women are built with a sense of, most of them, an intuition. They
Yes.
know spidey sense is going off. This is not right. But yet they will be
They're
like, oh,
ignoring.
they are. And the greatest thing is like if we could change that and being like, I've told my husband, I'm like, absolutely not. We've gone into business and I'm like, that guy, that person, they're a snake in the grass, right? And a couple of times he didn't listen to me. Oh, guess what? Got burnt. And then eventually started listening to me, right? Women are built with this amazing
Sense of knowing.
superpower. I'm going to call it a
Yeah,
superpower because it really is. So
I would agree with you.
when we negate ourselves from that, like it's just detrimental.
It is the ultimate rejection. It is the ultimate rejection. And you make such a great point because it is so crucial for the woman to begin to empower herself, to begin to um, glorify herself. And dare I even say it? Because also society says that we should not be full of ourselves. We should not glorify ourselves. If we do toot our own horn, we're considered self centered. But the real truth of the matter is women, for the most part, have become martyrs.
Mhm,
Sometimes some doormats. They've sacrificed themselves. They've rejected themselves, right?
mhm.
And it is so crucial and so important to begin to honor yourself, to glorify yourself, to listen to yourself, and obey yourself. When your intuition is going off like firecrackers on the 4th of July and you choose not to pay attention and listen, you're just really dishonoring yourself in so many ways. And so
Mhm.
this is one thing that I would absolutely say to begin to become conscious of. We can't change the things that we do not acknowledge. So, number one, it's all about becoming conscious. It's about becoming aware of how you're really thinking, how you're really showing up in the world. And a lot of this goes to your automatic response. I mean, like you said it earlier, like change that automatic response to I'll fix it, I'll do it, I'll run to your rescue, I'll drop everything that I have right now that is absolutely pressing, and I will sacrifice myself and my health and my well being to save you from something that you need to be able to do for yourself.
Yeah.
And honestly, I feel like that's another thing that when we start to become conscious and aware of how we're doing things, how can we do it different? And then, empowered women empower
Mm.
women. So, how can we ask really important questions that allow another person to take accountability or to take responsibility, take action
But
for
even if you're
themselves?
not yeah, even if you're not asking powerful questions, is that really your responsibility? Right? Are you
At
asking
100%.
Yeah, so, like, in society, right, as women, we want to help uplift and edify, so in like, when we're doing that, 100%, we need to have that introspection, but in day to day, is it our responsibility to I think it's our responsibility to teach the people in our sphere of influence how to do those things. But in everyday interaction, am I getting that wrong? In everyday interactions, I'd be like, no, thank you.
What's a really good barometer that you always say, if you're not making me
Oh gosh, if you're not making me money, if you're not making me come, like I have no, actually, there is,
if you're not making me money, if you're not making me better, or if you're
even,
not
even
making me
then,
come, you don't get a say.
even then, like if you're not making me money, like you don't have a say. That's a clear. Actually, I was listening. I had myself and I had my playlist. You were privy to. We were coming back from our offsite, and I finally feeling better, so I went for like a little 3 mile run this morning, and I was listening to my hype playlist, and it says, "Get out of your feelings because there's no money to be made there."
Do you believe that?
100%. Get out of your feelings.
Really?
Yeah. Because here's the thing, when we sit there and we stew, this person hurt, I want to be a good person, I want to do all of these specific things. I'm not saying heal and don't honor your feelings, but get out of the, oh, you hurt. Like, let me back up a little bit.
Stop
And
being offended about everything.
no, I stop getting out of I feel I want to be a good person. I feel I need to help this person. I feel I need to do this. So typically I'm going to go into my psychology, my degree. Typically if we look at the like the Myers-Briggs, the people who are the E's in there, they are the feelers, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? But learning how to say, okay, like I have this feeling. Where is this feeling coming from? What is it being created? And how do I um, move on from it? So you have to get out of your feelings, literally. I'm not saying don't honor it. Don't say, hey, why did this person upset me? Why do I feel this way? What's coming from here? But stewing in it and then spending all of your energy on, oh, like those folks on social media of all things. I said 4 words all together and it was like, do you think those people who are going off on tangents are the ones that are making the money, the ones that are literally changing the world, the ones that are going through and doing the work?
I would say they're more like the crabs in the barrel.
They are, right? So when I say get out of, get out of your feelings, it means like figure out what it is. Like, why do I feel this way? This isn't right. Should I be feeling this way? And then like honor it, like you say, but don't stay there. What do I say? You're allowed to have five. Oh, you're allowed to be have a sad bitch moment, but then you got to go back to being a bad bitch. Like
Right.
be a sad bitch, but then move on and be a bad bitch.
Okay, so I want to unpack something here. And it's really when it comes down to stewing in your feelings,
Mhm.
it's more like staying in victim mode.
Yes.
So
Okay.
it's
Yes.
it's not it's I don't know. I just I am all for honoring my feelings. And at the same time, I've got to really look at it seriously. Like, why did I react the way that I did? What triggers do I have? And how does that person mash every freaking trigger button that I have? And when you begin to kind of take responsibility for number one, the person that you let in your life that does that, or the unhealed trauma that you continue to hang on to for dear life because that story feels so comfortable
Mhm.
that you just continue to use it as a crutch,
Yeah.
that leads to a lot of that victim mentality, a lot of those crabs in the barrel, a lot of those rants and raves and tangents that you're talking about. And that's just not taking responsibility for yourself and your growth in life. So I just tend to understand the difference between being in your feelings and being a victim,
No,
not choosing to grow.
it's a fantastic call out. So there's something, one of these things that it's one of my favorites. It applies to so many people. It's called the drama triangle, and it was first kind of introduced by Stephen Cartman, and it was in the 60s. And so what they have, just exactly what you were talking about. So we have this triangle, right? And at the top, we have the victim. Like all of these things happen to these. Oh, it's raining. Why is this happening to me? Like, okay, it's rain, or oh, my car broke down, or oh, my boss, like all these things happen to them, right? So here we have this. And then over here we have the hero. It is the person, the women, right, that we're talking about. We come in and we rescue them, and they're like, oh, poor you, I'm so sorry, let me fix this for you. Oh, let me run an umbrella to you even though you're fully capable of doing it. Let me do this for you, that people pleaser, right? Almost like they're, what were you talking about? Like they feed into that victim, the clips in
Mm-hmm.
the barrel, but
Yep.
not quite the same, but it's kind of the same barrel. There's just different clicks. But then, hold on, I'm coming over here and there's the villain. It's where it's whatever's happening to them. It's, oh, like the rain is the villain, or Mother Nature's the villain, or the car, or the pothole, or the boss, right? So all of these things, it's this triangle. But then when we flip it on our head, then we become the creator. Like I am creating my own area that I want to be in. I am creating my own sphere of influence. I'm creating my own perception, my own happiness, right? And then we have, instead of having that hero, we have the coach. So in my world, like you and I would probably be each other's coaches, where we respectfully call each other on our bullshit. Like we're allowed to have the sad girl moment. You're like, I love that for you. Let's go do these things. But then it's like, okay, well, like my friends I was talking about before too, where I've had Julie, I've had you do it. I've had a friend of mine, Karen. They're like, well, what are you doing about it? Like, how are you moving forward? Like these types of things. So they're helping you cultivate this healthy relationship and these healthy aspects going forward. But then instead of having this villain, these things, it's a challenge. And so when you're in this creator mode, you're almost asking yourself, and this is something that I do, I'm like, is this something I need to be spending time and energy on? Is this something within my sphere of influence? Is this something I can change? Like, am I going to let this rain or this flat tire really dictate the outcome of my day? Those types of things. So going back to what you were saying, you nailed it right on the head. Like you have two different, you have the victim or you have the creator. I know, you or typically most people fall in that victim. You are one of the people who's elevated themselves to that creator.
Yeah. And so when you were talking about the point where instead of the hero, the rescuer, you
Mhm,
become the coach. And so
mhm,
earlier when we said, how can you pose a question so powerful in the moment that it allows that other person that's asking to be rescued, how they can step up and take responsibility, how they can step up and take accountability, or how
mhm,
they can step up and take action in their situation or their circumstance. And I think that that kind of automatic, like if you can really
mhm,
work to elevate yourself to that level to where that can be an automatic response, then you're killing it. You're crushing it in the game. Because I would absolutely say that on the other end, being the villain or having discernment, the conscious discernment to understand with absolute clarity, which is, one of the biggest assets and, just like the number one currency that I could ever have for myself in getting
mhm.
what I want in life or fulfilling the purpose that God has set on my heart is clarity. And until you reach clarity, discerning is going to be hard.
It's going to be judgment. So there's a difference, right, between true discernment and judging. And
Mm,
so
talk
typically,
about that.
yeah, so typically when we don't have the self-awareness or the ability to step back and do that introspection and we're still in that villain mode, we're crabs in a barrel, like they all connect together. Everything that we talk about, really, it builds on top of each other. But we're judging people. Oh, like her, I've had it happen to me. I'm pretty happy with who I am. I can do better. But I've literally walked into a restaurant and had people say things about me, and they don't know me, but they're judging me, right? It's the judgment that we have, which is typically I'm unhappy with myself, so I'm going to judge other people to make myself look better. So that's different. Okay. True discernment is the ability to go in and grasp and almost comprehend things that are obscure or that we're not used to. Almost what we were talking about before. It's the taking yourself out of your own perception and looking at things in different ways. And to your point, you're one of the few people that can do that, right? Like that is not a common trait. Typically, it's we're judging people. We're judging. So judging and having good judgment is completely different from discernment, where you're talking, where you've been there. So again, they have this crabs in a barrel, victim mentality, judgment, and then you have this where we're the coach and we're doing introspection and we're healing ourselves and we have discernment. It's almost like, let me give you, I'm going to break it down, split screen mode, because I'm going to see.
Break down.
Yeah. So we've done this before where it's happened to you, where we've been with a group of people, right? And they're coming in and they are, maybe they don't necessarily like something about you. They do know you, they have spent time with you, but yet they're like, oh, hold on, go back to split screen because I want to see her reaction to this. So we have somebody on our phone because she needs to get her internet fixed. But so you're in a group, you're at a party. Imagine you're at a party. You know these people, some better than others, right? But they know you. They've spent time with you. Some might be good friends, some might be acquaintances. But then they're coming in and they're thinking, oh, like this happened at my Christmas party. They're coming in the way that, first of all, banging outfit, ready to go, followed the instructions, and we're having a conversation with a group of people, and they're like, oh, you look like a blah, blah, blah mom, right? Not the case, but that is judgment. Now, because you are able to have discernment, you were not offended. You did not do anything. In fact, it came out to be a really good kind of relationship. But that's what I'm talking about. The ability, like it was a judgment. It wasn't a discernment. But when somebody else comes in and you're able to be like, well, I don't know their story. Let me find out. Now, discernment going through is like there is something where you're watching what they're saying, you're absorbing their actions versus their words, you're watching their body language, those types of things. That's different. Like you have the data in order to make the educated decision.
Right. So back on up, let's get a little juicy right now. Like, who was passing judgment on me first? I want to know.
We're in a group chat with them, for fuck's sake. Jesus, Mary and Joseph.
I was what kind of mom?
Self-like mom.
Oh, I was a self-like mom?
Yeah.
That's so cute. Says
I know. Hey,
mom.
Listen, I've done it too, but now like where I live, I'm like these blah blah blahs. I don't want to call it out, but I'm like these. Some of them are that. They're the ones where I walked into the restaurant. I like to dress up. Okay, what I say the other day, I'm like, quote of the day. I'm like, I dress for me because I like to do it. You dress for other people, and that's why you are going to end up having low self-esteem and get your feelings hurt. I like the way I look. I do it for me. I don't do it for anybody else. Okay. I grew up poor. I grew up overweight. I've worked so hard. I've made six figures. I got a little extra Christmas last 3 years wait anyways, but I'm allowed to do these things. I'm not trying to body shame, but it doesn't look good when somebody is 300 plus pounds wearing like super tight and nobody wants to see it. But now I do. Like Got a little extra, fluff on there, but I'm quite confident in my body and it makes me feel good. So they did. We walked in. It was two groups of women. There was three over here and there was two over here. They looked up at me. Listen, love your outfit, love it for you, looks good. I tell women all the time, love your shoes, love your hat, love this, makes people smile. We're good. They immediately, you can tell when somebody is looking at you. I don't really care. And then they're talking, pointing, like, okay, Captain Obvious. And so I sat there for a minute and I was like, I could just let it go.
Right.
Not that healed yet. So I said, and so they're going to put us at a table in between the two of them. And so, of course, I looked and I was like, listen, is there any way we could get another table? Because I would hate to interrupt the conversation that these two sets of ladies are having about me. Because apparently they have an issue with me or how I'm dressed or something about me instantly offended them. So I want to not, like, I just went off. And so my poor husband, he doesn't even flinch now. In fact, I think he can see the twinkle in my eye when it's about to happen. Right. And so he does. He's like, I'm just going to head over here and get your cocktail ready for when you're done here. Right. But I do choose the time and place. It's not like I'm constantly doing these types of things. So
That's so hilarious. But it just goes back to what we were saying earlier. Hurt people. And people people make others feel the way that they feel about themselves. They obviously don't feel good enough. So that is the barometer in which they measure things, which is not good enough. How
yeah.
can I cut this down? How can I make this fit into my little bitty tiny square box?
And I used to do that. I'm going to be honest. Have you ever seen the movie Mean Girls?
Of course.
Might have been a little Regina like.
Oh, the ringleader.
Yeah. So, and I did. And I remember one time, my mom was dropping us off at the football. And I rolled down the window and it was me and my two other girlfriends. I was in 9th grade, right? So it's not like I was allowed to drive, but I was like, look, it's a nerd herd. My mother was like, boom. She gave zero. That friggin' Irish Catholic was coming out hard. She gave zero shits about who was around, nothing. And this woman was the epitome of appearance. Miranda Lambert, like, it doesn't matter how you feel, it only matters how you look, right? She did. She, boom, popped me upside my head. And she said, I raised you better than that.
That's pretty badass.
But I was like, did you? Dad didn't. You might have, but Dad didn't. I didn't say that. I knew better. Like, I knew better. These kids today, they feel the need, like they have this equity, but no, I'm not proud. I don't want it to come off and like bragging about the person I used to be. The point of that is, no, I was there. I was very insecure. I was not happy. I was people pleasing. I was craving for somebody to tell me I was doing things right. I was sacrificing myself and tearing other people down. And one of the things that I want people to understand as we're talking about these topics, these are topics that are near and dear to our hearts. And we have proficient and deep knowledge and acumen on these because we have been on every side of these. We have been the people who are insecure. We have been the people who are tearing us down, but we did the work to elevate ourselves. And we know that we're never done doing the work.
That, my friend, is so true.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's like Pandora's box. I mean, like the moment that you finally tear into one and rip it off, it's like, fuck, there's another one. It's never ending.
Lord, can you just let me have a month off? I'm tired of hearing Lord. the Lord.
Right? Like I can't do any more blessings. Like I just can't. I can't do it. Like it is time to become present in your growth. Be where you are and see where you are at.
What do you mean you can't do
Because
any more blessings?
if
Like you're getting
not,
blessings or you're asking for them? Hold on, you're
no, I
getting
can't do
blessings?
any more blessings. So I also have a spiritual coach.
Mhm.
And one thing that I realize is until you learn the lesson, you'll always attract the situations that allow you to learn it. And it's a blessing, but it sucks, man. It's the curse too, because if you're consistently like a hamster in the wheel, going through the same situations with just people with different faces,
Mhm.
or if you just constantly keep yourself in a particular kind of rat race and you can't seem to get beyond it,
Yeah.
you really need to stop and read the room, like you would say. You really need to read your own fucking room and figure out where the hell your ass is at, so that you can get some very clear discernment
Mhm.
on what your triggers are. What are you not healed from? What are you still looking outside of yourself
Yeah.
to get, to make yourself feel? And how are you still being a victim to your past? How are you sacrificing yourself because of your past? And just all of those things, all of those coping mechanisms that we show up and play out because we still have a hook into some kind of fucked up ass experience that allowed us to believe something less about who we really are.
Yeah, so we were talking about, right? So we have the what you're talking about, how we grew up, we don't know what we know, and we're projecting that. Most people, like you were talking about, it's this infinite loop, and it's in the we have a group chat. It's the generational curses that we're putting on people. And so part of this, to the point that you were talking about, like part of the generational curse is like do we tell little girls be nice? Be nice, be nice. But do we tell little boys that, but we really kind of force it more on, this is how you should be acting, right? And I tell my kids every single day, like regardless, they both get equally the same. Like don't start no shit and don't take no shit. Like that's exactly what it is. So if somebody's going to start beef with you, I 100%, you're allowed to say please stop. But then after that, like I need you to teach them I said what I said. Like it's a fuck around and find out moment. It's a fuck
Fuck
around and
around
find
and
out.
find
And that's equal
out.
for both of them. That's equal for both of them, right? So I do tell my children, like, so here's the thing. When I tell them to do something because I'm their mom, it's not a question. Go put your shoes on, we're going to the store. I don't want to. Okay, I love that for you. However, let's go. But we do teach, we're coming off this generational curse where we're saying, oh, boys will be boys, right? Like, but girls are expected to be quiet and all these other things. So we're breaking that, which I think is fantastic. But then we have society where um, I can think of many instances where they're like, "Oh, you're a Karen." I'm like, "Okay, like I give a fuck about what you think." Right? But like a lot of women and people don't want to be labeled that. They want to be a kind person and not a good person, and there's a difference. So we have this society, right? And so they don't want to say no. They think this is their duty and they want that people pleasing and it's just the way. So and then we are genetically made up as women to have this empathy and this caring and this nurturing. And actually, that's one of the most fantastic things that we have. It is because it helps us build relationships. But it's a two-sided coin. We can build relationships and we can get that empathy, and it helps us in business because I trust you more than this, right? Like we have
Thousand
that
percent.
way. Yeah, but you have to know how to use it. You have to know how to leverage that. What did I tell
Mm,
you a couple weeks ago? I
there
used to
you
get
go.
I used to
I
get
like
ups
that.
what?
No, that was good. You have to learn how to use it and how to leverage it. I think that that's going to be another, I think that should be another episode.
Oh, yeah, I love it. I
That
used
was
to
juicy and good.
So talk about like healed and unhealed. Remember, I was telling you a story. What were we? It was like a month ago, right? And I was like, I used to get offended. I used to get mad because people didn't see what a smart businesswoman I was. People didn't think I was smart and like all these other things. I used to get mad, and now I'm like, I am smart. I am good. Like I got the data. I got the dollars to prove it. Right? These what it like. I
I got
love.
the data and the dollars.
I got the datas and the dollars to like prove it. I literally do, right? And I do. And so now I don't get offended. I'm like, go ahead, like underestimate me and think like we're just a pretty face or we don't know anything. I gotta tell you, brother, I'm 5 steps ahead of you and I am going to annihilate you in this business deal. And I sit there and I smile and I let all the things happen. And then before you know it, he's grabbing his ankles and I'm still sitting there smiling. And then I'm walking to the bank. Big
In
old
your Louboutins,
my big old
baby.
check, my big old booty, my big old check, and my big old smile.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
So I think what we would realize now is that it is absolutely okay to break this generational curse
Yeah.
of martyrdom, of people
Mhm.
pleasing, of societal, what do you call it? The societal
Expectation,
conditioning.
conditioning, and expectations. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
I'm not saying go off and like dye your hair blue, and I'm saying leverage all of your strengths as a woman, right? Do not get offended because somebody thinks you're not, but leverage it, you know? It's this like yeah, I think we were talking in the notes. We said we called it a different thing. I was like, I don't like that word, but you are absolutely right. It's the conditioning that's happened there, um, and that's why we have a bunch of kids that are running around with audacity and thinking they have no adversity in their life, and they are talking to their parents like they grown. I will.
Oh, are you talking about my child?
No, I mean in general. Like I saw a meme, you know me, like I
Oh
was
my
on
gosh.
it was so funny, like these kids in there, I need Starbucks before I go to school. Like, I'm like, "Are you kidding me?"
No.
Or hold on, I saw one, there's this guy, he's so funny. He's like, "Please, everybody pray for my daughter today. She forgot her Stanley Cup," which I have mine. Like, I love these things. It's true. I love them. I know we're like saying, and that's another thing. They're like, oh, all these moms with their, I got to tell you, my hydration is up. I don't know what it is. I
You
don't know
said my
what
hydration is
witchcraft they put on this, but I will tell you. Anyways, he goes, please pray for my daughter's hydration because she may have to drink out of a common water fountain instead of her Stanley Cup today. I feel she may be dehydrated and be sacrificing her health because she doesn't have her Stanley Cup. I'm dying because I'm like, oh my gosh, a Stanley Cup? Like I didn't even have bottled water when I was a kid. I'm drinking from a hose. And now these things are what, 40,
that
50,
is so
60 bucks?
true.
Like people are
Yeah.
stomping each other over these. And I'm like, as I drink from it.
Right. Right.
But I would never in a million years. I grew up, broke. My parents did a killer job. They showed me work ethic. But if I asked my mother for a $50 Stanley Cup, she would, again, I got to tell you, that would be where the thug comes out of Debbie. She'd be like, the fuck? And she was like, I need y'all
This
to listen to
bitch.
Miranda Lambert, Mama's Broken Heart. And that is my favorite song. That is me and my mother. She's up in heavens. Dynamic. But I have to tell you, even my dad would be like, the fuck? Like the fuck.
And that is
But
a
I knew
complete
better. I knew better.
expression.
Huh?
That is a complete expression.
It is, right? Just like, no, absolutely not. The fuck. My mother would did your mom give you my mom had the look. Like, I didn't even know. I could be 2 miles away, right? And I would do something, and she would give me the look, and I instantly knew. Like, it would send chills up my spine. I knew, like, straighten up.
No, my mom did not have the look, but when you wrap your lips around your teeth and you start looking at them like you motherfucker, I'm gonna kick
Oh,
your
I
ass. I mean, that right there was when I knew the woman meant business.
yeah. When you're
When she
just
would
hold on,
wrap her, yep, she
you're
would just
just grinding
wrap
your
them
teeth, and
around.
you're like, you don't realize at the moment if you, like, do this, like a
Yeah.
dog, like, I might chip a tooth. Like, I
Ah!
like and you are like, they don't tell you how to be a parent. I don't care what book it is. I'm telling you right now, they don't tell you how to. First of all, gentle parenting not happening. But I just sit there and I'm like, what gets me off the edge is like, can I? Do I want to go to jail right now? Like, I'm willing to go to jail, so that's kind of what makes me dangerous. Like, for the right thing, like, I don't want to, but I will. But I'm not
Right.
willing to do it.
Even planned for it, even budgeted for
I
it.
have
That's the
budgeted.
thing.
I do. I do have a plan for the day I may potentially go to jail for no
Ah,
reason. I gotta tell you. So, all right. So one of the things we as we're wrapping up on today's episode, now that we've untapped like our mommy and daddy issues, right? And how
right.
we're trying not to put it on the kids, but I gotta tell you, like, I do. I will. I'll tell my husband. I'm like, I'm going to timeout. Going to timeout. I'm going to timeout. I tell the kids too. I'm going to timeout. I'm going to timeout. Mommy needs to cool off. Mommy needs time out. Anyways, we need women to be okay with saying no, but also not just saying no, like setting that boundary, but then upholding the boundary and not justifying it. Because one of the things I've noticed is when people aren't used to you upholding your boundaries or saying no, they're going to come at you really hard. They're going to come back. Well, why this? Why this? Why this? So when you're saying no, just no, it's a complete sentence. But then when you give them a justification, now they're poking holes in it. Like they have the permission to do that, and they
Right.
really don't. So don't open up those doors, right? Say
Mm,
no
great
and
point.
be unapologetic and be like, I said no. For women, hold on, what happened to the whole thing? No means no. That goes for everything, right?
Right.
And then when we're not saying no and we're being people pleasers, it's really we're sacrificing a lot of things. Even if you're not married, if you don't have kids, think about going on dates. We say no or we say yes when we really shouldn't. And that puts us in danger. It really does. We help people we shouldn't. Oh, I feel so bad. I feel so bad. Stop feeling bad. You're taking on somebody else's burden that you really shouldn't. Right. And then, like, one of the things that we want to leave you with today is what is it costing you when you don't say no?
That's the golden question.
Maybe that's start tracking. Start tracking. Like when I say no, what did you save? Like what
Nothing.
was
You
the
did
benefit?
not save money. You probably did not save time. You probably did not save your sanity.
Mhm,
You probably, did not save your dreams and your goals and your aspirations.
mhm. Well, yeah, when I'm saying yes to all these people, like we talked about, hey, what's our outcomes that we want for the year? What's the person we want to be? So when we are letting these grains of sand and saying yes to things instead of no, that's taking away from the person you want to be, the person you are meant to be, the person you're aspiring to be. And also, by the way, it's setting an example if you do have children or any other maybe younger females in your life, it's setting an example for them because I will tell you, people, especially children, they watch what you do as opposed to what you say.
Oh, 1000%.
And then they mimic that.
Oh, yeah. They are little parrots.
They are.
They're little mirrors and little parrots.
They are.
So,
All right. Well, thank you for joining us for another episode of Zen and Fire, where no, it's a complete sentence. And if you like us, of course, hit subscribe. We're always here, and we'd love to hear your thoughts. We are on Instagram, YouTube, or on Apple,
TikTok.
the TikTok. Yes, we're on all of the things. We're on Facebook, but we do love our Insta. That's mine, and that. So we definitely have our YouTube. So again, look for our socials. It's going to be on there. Look for any resources that we put in the links, and we definitely want to hear what you have to say. If you guys want us to talk about a topic, we are here. If you want some advice, we are 100% here. And soon we're going to be coming out with our Patreon, where you get to, like, you think this is unfiltered? Oh my goodness, you just don't know.
Wait till we take the muzzle off.
The muzzle
And
muscle.
take the muzzle of the muzzle off and
It
let
is.
the dogs bark.
Yes. We're definitely going to have our after dark, right? We're in the daylight still. We still need to be semblance of some kind of decent human being, but I'm going to tell you, like, the real personalities are going to come out hardcore. All right.
Yes. So thank you so much for joining us. Hit the subscribe buttons, and let's open up some conversation. So feel free to provide all of your feedback, your comments, and all of your sarcastic remarks. Let's get to know each other. All right.
Yeah.
Talk to you guys soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Move it, the one and